Okay, we'll read a lesson. Very nice lesson today. Lesson 66. My happiness and my function are one. You have surely noticed an emphasis throughout our recent lessons on the connection between fulfilling your function and achieving happiness. This is because you do not really see the connection. Yet, there is more than just a connection between them. They are the same. Their forms are different, but their content is completely one. The ego does constant battle with the Holy Spirit on the fundamental question of what your function is. So does it do constant battle with the Holy Spirit about what your happiness is. It is not a two-way battle. The ego attacks, and the Holy Spirit does not respond. He knows what your function is. He knows that it is your happiness. Today we will try to go past this wholly meaningless battle and arrive at the truth about your function. We will not engage in senseless arguments about what it is. We will not become hopelessly involved in defining happiness and determining the means for achieving it. We will not indulge the ego by listening to its attacks on truth. We will merely be glad that we can find out what truth is.
Our longer practice period today has as its purpose your acceptance of the fact that not only is there a very real connection between the function God gave you and your happiness, but that they are actually identical. God gives you only happiness. Therefore, the function He gave you must be happiness, even if it appears to be different. Today's exercises are an attempt to go beyond these differences in appearance and recognize a common content where it exists in truth. Begin the 10 to 15 minute practice period by reviewing these thoughts. God gives me only happiness. He has given my function to me. Therefore, my function must be happiness. Try to see the logic in this sequence, even if you do not yet accept the conclusion. It is only if the first two thoughts are wrong that the conclusion could be false. Again, these sentences are, God gives me only happiness. He has given my function to me. Therefore, my function must be happiness. Let us then think about the premises for a while as we are practicing. The first premise is that God gives you only happiness. This could be false, of course, but in order to be false, it is necessary to define God as something He is not. Love cannot give evil, and what is not happiness is evil. God cannot give what He does not have, and He cannot have what He is not. Unless God gives you only happiness, He must be evil. And it is this definition of Him you are believing if you do not accept the first premise. The second premise is that God has given you your function. We have seen that there are only two parts of your mind. One is ruled by the ego and is made up of illusions. The other is the home of the Holy Spirit, where truth abides. There are no other guides but these to choose between, and no other outcomes possible as a result of your choice but the fear that the ego always engenders and the love that the Holy Spirit always offers to replace it. Thus it must be that your function is established by God through His voice, or is made by the ego, which you have made to replace Him. Which is true? Unless God gave your function to you, it must be the gift of the ego. Does the ego really have gifts to give, being itself an illusion and offering only the illusion of gifts? Think about this during the longer practice period today. Think also about the many forms the illusion of your function has taken in your mind, and the many ways in which you tried to find salvation under the ego's guidance. Did you find it? Were you happy? Did they bring you peace? We need great honesty today. Remember the outcomes fairly, and consider also whether it was ever reasonable to expect happiness from anything the ego ever proposed. Yet, the ego is the only alternative to the Holy Spirit's voice. You will listen to madness or hear the truth. Try to make this choice as you think about the premises on which our conclusion rests. We can share in this conclusion, but in no other, for God Himself shares it with us. Today's idea is another giant stride in the perception of the same as the same, and the different as different. On one side stand all illusions. All truth stands on the other. Let us try today to realize that only the truth is true. In the shorter practice periods, which would be most helpful today, if undertaken twice an hour, this form of the application is suggested. My happiness and function are one, because God has given me both. It will not take more than a minute, and probably less, to repeat these words slowly and think about them a little while as you say them. Again, we begin the longer practice period by reviewing these thoughts. God gives me only happiness. He has given my function to me. Therefore, my function must be happiness.
Carry me into the deep within, where holiness in shining silence sings, where God in love claims me as His own, where I am truly home in the deep within. Nothing in this world can help me, no one in this world can tell me anything about peace and salvation. A voice inside my mind is saying it will help me find the way through the quiet door of meditation. Take me past my terror of the light, the clouds of guilt that make an endless night, false images that have me hypnotized and locked in compromise with a world of lies. Nothing in this world can help me, no one in this world can tell me anything about peace and salvation. A voice inside my mind is saying it will help me find the way in through the quiet door of meditation. Take me deep, deep within the mind, to pierce the veil of separateness in time. Sing to me a lullaby that wakes and gently helps me break dark spells that bind. Nothing in this world can help me, no one in this world can tell me anything about peace and salvation. A voice inside my mind is saying it will help me find the way in through the quiet door of meditation. Angels come and lift me on your wings to the light my trembling spirit brings. Willingness is all I have to give, but how I long to live in the deep within. Nothing in this world can help me, no one in this world can tell me anything about peace and salvation. A voice inside my mind is saying it will help me find the way in through the quiet door of meditation. Carry me into the deep within, where holiness in shining silence sings, where God in love claims me as his own, where I am truly home in the deep within. In the deep within.
Lovely. So maybe we can allow God to be God today. Because if we don't believe that God gives only happiness, we actually don't believe that God is God. We would have to define God as something He is not. Love cannot give evil, and what is not happiness is evil. God cannot give what He does not have. And He cannot have what He is not. So we have to believe that God is God here if we want to be happy, and believe that God has given us our function. And not replace it with a function that we have made up ourselves. We have seen that there are only two parts of your mind. One is ruled by the ego and is made up of illusions. The other is the home of the Holy Spirit, where truth abides. There are no other guides but these to choose between, and no other outcomes possible as a result of your choice, but the fear that the ego always engenders and the love that the Holy Spirit always offers to replace it. It's good to know. Only these two. Thus it must be that your function is established by God through His voice, or is made by the ego which you have made to replace Him, which is true. Unless God gave your function to you, it must be the gift of the ego. Does the ego really have gifts to give, being itself an illusion, and offering only the illusion of gifts? It's a pretty obvious answer. Like we heard when Barret read, we need to think about this. That we either believe that a function is given by God or by the ego, and the ego can only give illusions. But he says also we should think about the many forms the illusion of your function has taken in your mind. Think about the many forms the illusion of your function has taken in your mind, and the many ways in which you've tried to find salvation under the ego's guidance. Did you find it? Were you happy? Did they bring you peace? We need great honesty today. Because if we go through this, we will realize that we don't want the ego's gifts. We don't want unhappiness. We don't want to be lost. Remember the outcomes fairly of this when the ego has been guiding. And consider also whether it was ever reasonable to expect happiness from anything the ego ever proposed. Yet the ego is the only alternative to the Holy Spirit's voice. Do we listen to madness or hear the truth? Or we can replace madness with doubt, or really or self-concept, or control. This is beautiful. All we need to do is just to say yes. Yes, I'm willing, Holy Spirit. God, I'm willing to know my function. I'm willing to know who you are. God, I'm willing to know that you give only happiness. It feels so much better than listening to doubt or to limitation. Maybe we join here in a expression session to clear anything that might be in the way for this happiness to be fully experienced. What do we need to put on the altar? Some interesting lines in this lesson. The ego does constant battle with the Holy Spirit. Of what your function is. constant. So does the ego do a constant battle with the Holy Spirit about what your happiness is. Wow, that's good to know too. Ego will propose that your happiness is in anything else than what the Holy Spirit proposes. Everything else. That's why we need this mind training, when mind watching, to watch, to see those trains of thoughts or conclusions or emotions too. And there are so many steps. I mean, this is the delight of this path, and like the path is about relationships. That's all the Course talks about. And the gift of even being together like this as a group. Like there's so many practical ways that Spirit will work with us, you know. This is not just to sit on our own and try to release the ego. We can't really do it that way. We need to allow the symbols to come in. And we need to say yes. And it may be scary sometimes. I'm thinking of like all the relationships and all the assignments, all the connections I've had since I said yes to Awakening. So many different forms and types of relationships. And I used to be afraid of relationships, and I used to be afraid of being hurt in relationships. We talked quite recently about that, how, you know, it can be scary because there are other objects of, you know, threats. Like our partner would be interested in someone else. You know, those kind of fears I used to have. And just a fun story. I was in Australia with David, and we had a very big, large retreat, like 70-ish people, probably even more than 70 people were there. And there was one hippie guy there. He was like he lived in the bush in Australia and smoking pot, and he was, you know, his sweaty body smell and this hippie clothing, and David had mentioned his name to me, and I was like, I couldn't relate to this type of personality. I couldn't relate. And even less when we had some big sharing and the guy said, I love going to kissing workshops. He said, I love going to kissing workshops. And I thought, I'm going to stay away from him. And then the days went by. This may have been a 6-7 day retreat. Maybe on the maybe 6th day, towards the end, in the morning, I was leading one of the small groups. We had like a group like this every morning. We had divided the whole retreat into small groups. And so we all met in different houses where we stayed. And my group had finished a few minutes or maybe 10-15 minutes earlier than some of the other groups. So I walked out and I prayed, Holy Spirit, what would you have me do? And I heard, go into house 33, go into that house. And I thought, no, why would I go in there? They're in a group meeting, and I don't know whose group it is, I don't know anything. And it kept coming, go into that house. And I thought, okay, I'm going to obey. You know, it was scary, but walking. And it's David's group, and he has the biggest group. and it's a very big group, and everybody's still in there, and he's talking in the living room, and the guy is there, this hippie guy, and I had walked by the kitchen or the dining area and grabbed some fruit, and so I was walking in there eating a strawberry, and then the guy asked David a question, something about attraction or something, and I can't remember it, but he probably spoke up right there that he was attracted to me, and then he said, "It's the forbidden fruit," because I was eating fruit, and and then David said, "Yeah, I think you're gonna travel with Jenny." He said to the guy. I'm like, no, I'm like, stay away from me, you know. But no, so it was. So because David had talked about this book tour, and he felt I was going to go on a book tour in Australia with somebody, with a travel partner. So that was him, and so in his old hippie car, we went on tour. And even to his place where he lived in this, you know, he lived in this very simple, very open, I don't know what, yeah, there was maybe like a house, but very simple, shower outside, glass door, like in front, it was just open, because it's warm there. So yeah, that was a huge healing, but that resistance that was so strong. I also felt attraction to him, but the resistance was stronger. So I had to. I mean, I trusted David. I trusted the unfoldment, and I'm grateful because it made me really face some fear and some huge resistance. That type of being, how human being, seemingly. I thought it was outrageous. I mean, he was smoking pot while he was driving, he said, because he lived in Byron Bay, I think, yeah. It's kind of like a hippie town, and then he said, yeah, I drive down to Sydney, it's like a 3-hour drive, and I always smoke pot to get through the journey, like, because it's so long. And I thought, that's dangerous, that's like he's on drugs, you know. Yeah. But it was a huge adventure. It was very healing. And that was, yeah, it was love, and there was so much healing for him. And I ended up inviting him to come with me back to America. And he didn't there. His fear came up. It was very, very pure heart. And that's what I like about it. It's practical, you know. It's not just to try so hard in our minds to release the ego. We get practical lessons of doing it.
Where we don't want to go.
Where we don't want to go, yeah.
Rules.
Where we don't want to go, that's where we'll find them.
So on that topic, we have some assignments for you.
Oh.
What we do, I mean, it happens all the time, you know, the way things get arranged. Yeah.
Behind the voice book?
Yeah. Yeah. So what's up in the mind today here? How are you guys doing? So last morning here for the Anne-Marie.
Very powerful activation or something happened. And it's almost overwhelming, but I'm okay now. But yeah, so much energy moving through. And I just had this thing about time, you know, just really sort of just kept hearing it's over. It's over.
Wow.
Past anyway, that's the thing that was related to.
Time is over. That's profound.
And yeah, it was something that happened when I was sharing in the group, and people coming in and made a bit of noise, and we said something to them. The ego immediately was that's really felt very harsh, but immediately there was this, it just pushed it all aside, and so it's over. That moment's gone. You know, I can hold on to what I'm perceiving, or and it just went. And that's sort of been hanging around, that experience. And even today with Matthew, we were talking about time, weren't we, and the collapse of time, and yeah, I just really felt that today. Yeah, just this, God, so much energy, I thought I was going to explode. It was so powerful. And I really felt Sarah, you know, a friend I was telling you about, she's still doing work with me, I can tell you, she's really here. Just felt very powerful. So yeah, I don't know what else to say, but yeah, stuff's moving. I don't know what else to say about it. It was very strong. I feel a bit more grounded now, but I felt I was going to... I should go off the planet at one point. I thought I'm going to... I keep putting my feet on the ground to keep myself here. It felt so strong. But yeah.
Levitation is possible. Levitation is possible.
I felt that was better. Yeah, it's very strong. Yeah, just very grateful. Thank you. And everyone, of course. It's been,
Yeah, thanks for joining minds. Minds joined.
So, yeah, it's definitely landed on a much deeper level.
It's over.
So, what relief.
Anyone else?
Yeah, maybe I could. This morning I woke up, maybe 4:30 and went to the toilet. Then I get so awakened because I had to be careful going to bed. And then I thought I'll just relax a little before I read the lesson. But a lot of fear came, and I had this like cramp in my here, in my both legs. I have had that many times in the morning, that cramping, and I felt like I had a rope around my ankles and was hanging up like a torture. So this battling between the Holy Spirit and the ego, this was really being in the ego. That's how it looked like for me. And I said, no, this can't be true, this can't be true. And then I started reading the lesson, and I was, because it almost rushed through my body, all this fear, and then reading the lesson, that's the way out of this hell. So it's really a body experience, this fear, listening to the ego.
You saw you felt the contrast between them.
So big, from hell to peace, totally. I could relax my whole body, and this disappeared. But now I can feel it again. This rope around. It reminds me of that feeling in the body, hanging from the ceiling and down, tortured.
Well, it's for healing. This is, remembering these intense things. It's because you're ready to heal it.
I I've stepped out of the cave now, and I see this.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I'm struggling between the right mind and the wrong mind.
Yeah.
It's so clear now. And it didn't take that long to rush through my body.
And nobody is held to anything. Nobody is held to anything. Like the past is a mess. And even past lives.
Yeah.
And these memories, it's just for forgiveness, healing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can choose God now. I can choose happiness now
Yeah,
instead of this hell.
yeah. And you seem to be able to do it quicker.
Yeah.
You,
This morning I
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
you read the lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew what to do.
Yeah.
I just grabbed
The
my
tools.
phone and started this. No ego. This, I don't want to
Yeah.
analyze or try to understand. There's nothing there.
Yeah. That's how I used to desperately grasp for the course. This was before apps. You know, in the morning when I woke up in terror, I was like, where's the
Yeah.
course book? Turn on the light. And
Yeah. That's how it feels.
it was like,
Yes.
it was like seconds. I couldn't waste a second because it was so much terror and
Yeah.
fear in the
Yeah.
mind. And so much determination to not stay in the terror, in the sleep. Beautiful. Say a big high five with Holy Spirit and
Yeah.
angels.
High five the wing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very happy I saw it this morning because I had this several times wake up and had this cramp and I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
It was just to make another choice.
Yeah.
Go with the ego.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's like you see the image, you're already remembering this, terrifying experience, and so you're already healing it.
Yeah. No need for going there and
No.
look at it anymore.
No,
It's gone. It's past. Yeah.
yeah,
Past
you
that,
are,
yeah.
you have looked at it. You're looking at it when it comes
Yeah.
up like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All is well. Yeah, I'm going to share a little story because there's no coincidence, even coming here to this particular group and the experiences Karen has the memories of being hung, in her feet.
Yeah.
3 years ago, this young guy from Denmark called me and said, I want to travel with you. I want to join with you. And for me, it was a bit out of the blue, but I said, okay, you can come to the retreats I have and you can, come along for a month. So he did. So he came to Sweden. I had a retreat in Sweden. And I had this digestive issue, and it had become very difficult just at that time, like as if there is a rock or something.
Yeah.
And on a Saturday afternoon, I was guided to say, we're going to have a healing touch session.
We're gonna have a
Healing touch.
Oh, yeah.
Healing touch session. And so there were the ones who were going to receive healing and the ones who were going to give healing. And I was facilitating it. But then the host of the house where we had the retreat, she came up to me and said, Jenny, I have a prompt to give you a healing touch. And I have the guidance to put my hand here. And she did. And she did it for maybe just 1 minute. And then she said, it's done. And she said, there was a picture of me being killed by a knife.
Yeah.
And this was in Sweden in the 1500s. There was Uddevalla was owned by the Danish. I was a Danish woman living in Uddevalla. And the Swedes came and invaded Uddevalla. And immediately I had a flash of Jonas. He was a Swede. He held a knife. He murdered me in that life. And he was the guy who was there with me, traveling with me. And we had constant times where I had to put him into place, so to speak, because he was so wild, he was so undisciplined, and he was not supporting, he was more interfering. So I had to constantly, so it was this old kind of unresolved trauma.
Yeah.
At that moment it got resolved. It was seen, and my digestion became much better.
Yeah.
It was just, I thought I had all kinds of issues. I was gluten, or I had these beliefs, but this was it.
Yeah.
It's this unresolved trauma. So it can be, we come together with ones that we're ready to forgive something.
Yeah. I've had so many of those experiences myself. Pull out the sword.
Yeah. So maybe
So
this
many.
past of yours, maybe Karin was involved in this hanging in her feet. So her dreaming that or feeling that when you share a room, and you had also, the two of you had similar too.
Past
So,
lives,
yeah.
torture.
Yeah. And it's not about analyzing or,
No.
kind of, but it's for the healing. We can
Yeah.
just see the picture, So thank God it's forgiveness is possible and real, and
Yeah.
we're not held to the past or to actions, to form. Error is to be put in one category, It's just
Yeah.
for healing. It's
When
not.
I can step back and see that it's just like a movie, it's just like a dream, but there's the emotional charge that needs to be let go of.
Glad you heard it so clearly in your mind to come for 9 days, and you followed.
I always follow.
Yeah.
This has always been first in my life.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's good. It will all heal.
Yay!
And on another level, it's already done.
Yeah.
It's all over.
Yeah.
It's over now. Even being a past life healer.
It's a past life.
There are no coincidences, that's for sure. But it's profound, Anne-Marie, what you shared, this experience you had when I was direct with the guys, and you saw the opportunity to not dwell on that, to stay in spirit instead.
It's like it wasn't for me. I didn't even. It was weird.
Yeah,
I suppose because I was in mid-share,
yeah,
I almost didn't have time to think about it. It just what happened.
yeah.
And it could happen. Why does it not need to be like that all the time?
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing, isn't it? Because it is over.
Yeah,
It's only if I want to keep focus on it
yeah,
that keeps it here.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, when we're ready, the spirit can come in and sweep
yeah.
away, I believe.
Mm.
David came in one time into my perception like that, and it was an enormous. The directness was just. It was like laser, and it felt as if a whole way of thinking had just been taken away. There was this. I had perception of men, and projected onto him, of being. Yeah. Patriarch. I don't know what. It was some.
Jerks.
Yeah.
Jerks.
That's it.
Simple word. It's really simple.
Well, what happened was he was guided, I guess. He was downstairs. He said, "Jenny, can you just throw me a sweater?" I was upstairs, and I got so angry. I said, "Why do you need a sweater anyway? You shouldn't be cold. You shouldn't feel cold, you know. And why do you ask me as if I'm like some kind of servant, you know?" So I throw it literally at him. And he came up towards me, and he said something. And I was like, there was like a wind came in, and afterwards I was as if there was a hole inside of it. After this belief was removed about men are jerks. There was something like that. Yeah, that was powerful. He pointed out that I had been fixated on form, on thinking in form rather than content. And that was true. That was the way I had been all my life. So it was this step up. Were you going to share?
Yeah, I'm just feeling into it actually.
Yeah.
I think it's, well, I don't think, I feel it's that authority thing like I shared whenever I shared it. And that was related to you specifically as well. And so that's clearly what's being healed, you know, this hierarchy, someone in authority. And I had an experience like it in Mexico with Lisa. Oh God, I mean, it stayed, an experience that happened with her stayed with me for months. The ego kept replaying it and replaying it, how unjust it was. So it's almost like it feels here, it's hopefully, I don't know if it'll be completely healed, but
Some steps.
yeah, that's how it feels, because it was a similar feeling. But it certainly feels less intense and less personal now. It felt very personal, particularly with Lisa, very, very personal. And of course I know the theory, it's not personal, but when you feel it, don't you? It's like it's there, it's like... So this time it feels diluted, it's less. Yeah. So of God. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just don't want that authority things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you for playing the role.
I'm glad I can provide.
It's all set up perfectly, isn't it?
Yeah, it